All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How is it going? I'm istherenoonelse, and today's video we are going to go over what I've been running on my stamina Nightblade for the High Isle patch. Now, I've done a lot of research on this. I've done a lot of comparisons. I have brought my notes for you guys. Now, this video will not have any gameplay. I will have gameplay in the future for you guys to check it out. I'll show you some of the mechanics of the setup and everything. And the reason we're not doing that is because there's going to be a lot of explanations in this video because this is a very a non-traditional Nightblade setup. The gear, like the skill layout's the same, but a lot of the gear is going to have people asking questions. So we're going to go into details on the gear. And so without making the video too long, we're going to dive into it. I'm going to just post the gear. If you guys have any questions or if you're curious, I will do explanations on everything. But yeah, here we go. Ready? We got Vateshran's 2H front bar, Rallying Cry Backbar, One Piece Balorg, Ethereal Ascension, and Sea Serpent's Coil. So Sea Serpent is our mythic. We're running a Backbar 5-piece. We're running a body 5-piece. We're running a 1-piece monster instead of 2-piece, and we're running a mythic or an arena item. Now, you guys are gonna have a ton of questions, I know, so we're gonna dive into each one. Like I said, I did a video like this a couple weeks ago, and people really enjoyed the in-depth explanation, and so that's what we're gonna do here. So for those of you guys that just wanted to see the build, there you go. If you want to dive into more detail and see why I chose what I chose, and if you're looking at options and alternatives, I will provide that also. So let's dive into it. Food, lava foot, tripods for potions. Now, we will dive into Vateshran, but the first things first, let's talk about the patch. This patch has a lot of gank damage. Literally every class in the game can gank right now. It is a lot of damage because of Oaken Soul providing major force. You get 20% crit damage right there, stacked with minor force with like Race Against Time or other sets, stacked with a new set like Order's Wrath with people running low crit mitigation. A lot of classes are very bursty right now. Very, very bursty, especially with Oaken Soul. Oaken Soul gankers are all over the place. You will get 100 to 0'd a lot this patch in open world PvP when you are solo. You'll get bursted a lot when you're in a duo, trio, whatever. That's just the way it is right now. It is very eerily similar to 1.6, the Viper, Selene meta where everybody was hitting very hard, and so we have to make some adjustments. We still have plenty of damage, guys. I will show you that. We actually have a lot of damage with this because we're running a very, very powerful mythic that offsets some of the mitigation that we have to run. And so anyways, gankers happen anywhere and everywhere. They happen when you're fighting in a group. They happen when you're riding from keep to keep. They happen when you step AFK to go pee and you're just outside in the middle of nowhere and you get ganked. Now, the best way to mitigate gankers is to have resistances, crit resistance, percent mitigation, like stage 3 vampire, yada, yada, yada. Like, you need to have that uptime on that all the time. And you guys know in the past that I've liked Daedra Trickery. I think Daedra Trickery is fantastic. But if you're riding from keep to keep, you're not doing damage to anything, so Daedra Trickery will not be up. Like, you will just not be proccing Daedra Trickery, so you might as well not even be wearing a defensive set. You will just die. What are... Pariah is fantastic, but Pariah starts at 2k resistances, and it scales up. Ethereal Ascension is a body set that gives you 1,000 less resistances than Pariah all of the time. It's all of the time. So your entire health bar has low level Pariah level resistances all of the time at the cost of a 20% cost increase to your core combat skills: block, sprint, dodge, and break free. Now, you could run a set like Trial by Fire, and I've run it in the past. But the thing is sometimes you don't have a status effect on you when you get ganked, when you take a ton of burst damage. So you might as well not be wearing a defensive set. Now, if you have guaranteed burning, the burning status effect, it will proc Trial by Fire, and that will be a better option because you get similar resistances without having 100% uptime. The other option is Backbar Armor Master. So you can run a Backbar, front bar, mythic item with a monster set. And Armor Master is great. But sometimes I don't want to be shoehorned into running shuffle. There's times where I want to run a different skill on that specific spot, depending on the fights that I'm getting into. And Armor Master requires you casting it every 10 seconds, which can be a drain on your resources. So shuffle, although it's fantastic, it can be very cost inducing to run it. And we can build around Ethereal Ascension. Ethereal Ascension gives us more resistances. I'm not saying it's the best, but it is a very, very good set. And like I said, we're going to build around it for this specific meta. I tried running glass cannon setups. I've tried running like Clever Alchemist in Order's Wrath. I've tried running Rallying Cry in Order's Wrath. I've tried running a lot of different burst sets, and I've gotten some good fights. You know, I've gotten a 1v8, gotten a 1v6. Like, a lot of high damage is really nice. But you run across that Clarion's Ashen Grip ganker, and they're going to give you 20k proc damage. Like, Clarion's is going to hit for 10 to 14k. Ashen Grip's going to hit for 5k. And that's just proc damage. That's not the 10k plus in cap. That's not the spin to win coming. That is just a crazy amount of damage that can nuke 40k health bars. Like I said, gank damage is very, very high. And so you can run that way. I'm not saying don't run glass cannon. You absolutely can, but you'll get ganked a lot more often. You just will. And so I want to build into being able to stand my ground a little bit, because there's a lot of things pulling you out of stealth, like people have talked about. Cloak no longer mitigates dot damage. You need to be a little bit more bulky. Now, the best way to play Nightblade right now, in my opinion, is a hybrid Nightblade, running rapid regeneration or radiating regeneration with Dark Cloak. Like, you just have a lot of healing power, and then you can stack more damage, or stack a lot of damage. I wanted to run a traditional 2H and bow Nightblade setup, and for that type of setup, because you don't have as much healing power, you have to stack a little bit more mitigation, hence the Ethereal Ascension. Now, I'm not saying run this. I'm not saying this is better than every other Nightblade build out there, but if you like to play a traditional 2H and bow setup, and you still want to try and run one this patch without getting two-shot all the time, and you're not a ganker, I feel like this works pretty well. And so we're building around Ethereal Ascension for that reason. Now, people are going to ask about the 20% cost increase. Now, for me personally, if you guys watch my gameplay, I don't sprint a ton. I don't sprint unless I really have to. And that's only to get into a tower, and then I use line of sight and everything. I try to really conserve my resource in those areas. So sprint cost increase means nothing to me. Block on a bow build, I'm not blocking a ton of things, so block doesn't really matter. 20% cost increase is something I'm almost never doing. Doesn't matter. And so then it comes down to dodge and break free. Well, you have your CP tree. If we go into our CP tree, and when we're fighting severely outnumbered, we can run Survival Instincts, which is a 25% cost reduction to our core combat skills. So just that in of itself offsets running a set like Ethereal Ascension. So it means nothing already. It's like that thing reduces it. On top of that, Sustain is so easy to come by right now. Like, Sustain has been super easy on the Elder Scrolls Online for the last 2 years. That is also something. And on top of that, if you look at the editor and you run well fitted, you can get the cost of dodge roll down below normal dodge roll cost if you ran like 7 in pen over 6 well fitted. Your dodge roll cost, even with Ethereal Ascension, will be cheaper. And if you look at my dodge roll cost when I'm dodging, you can see that it's not really impacting my ability to dodge roll with a specific build. Yes, we have the cost increase. Eventually I'm going to run out of resources, but that's not like, you can see it's not a crippling dodge roll amount. I can still dodge roll quite a bit, and it's not really costing me much of anything. It's, like I said, it's cheaper than if I ran 7 impen. And so we can offset all those different things that way. And so with Ethereal Ascension, we have very high resistances. Very, very high resistances. It's very nice. And so we are running 36k resistances. We are a stage 3 vampire with 30k health. So very, very tanky, basically all of the time. And so that is very nice for that reason. Now, Backbar set, we are running Rallying Cry. Rallying Cry is one of the best sets in the game. Not a lot of people are running it. I don't know why. It is one of the best sets in the game, especially for a high damage meta where people have a lot of crit modifiers. Having 1600 critical resist is very, very valuable. Plus, it's powerful assault. It's powerful assault level damage on the backbar, plus impreg level crit resist on the backbar with near 100% uptime. That can also buff a duo or trio if you decide to run it in a small group. This is a great, great set. Now, I was looking at other backbar options. I tried Griffin. If I had transmutes, I would definitely go to Clever Alchemist, because I think solo that would be a little bit better. I haven't tried it for sure though, but between the two, I would go Clever Alchemist or Rallying Cry. Rallying Cry makes you very tanky. Like I said, Nightblades are like they have so much damage right now. Having a ton of critical resist is very valuable. So I have 3,700 critical resist with this build. I have 36k resistances, 3,700 critical resist with a stage 3 vampire. I'm very, very chunky with this setup. Now, you're going to ask, else, okay, you're chunky. Like, that's cool. Where's your damage? and we're getting to it. This has 300 weapon damage on the back bar. But now, I'm running 1-piece Battle for the weapon damage, and you're going to ask, you know, why not 2-piece? Well, like I said, when I was looking at the resistance sets, I just thought Ethereal Ascension was the best, like, most mitigation all of the time. I'm not saying it's the best for everybody. Maybe you want to run Armor Master, maybe you want to run Pariah, but I feel like for gankers, Ethereal Ascension is the best mitigation in just about every scenario that you're going to encounter. And when I find that I'm not running Trickery on a setup, I'm not stacking a ton of ulti-gen. And so oftentimes in fights, I'm hitting my in cap at around 120 to 150 ult. And so because I'm not stacking Balorg, although Balorg has a ton of potential, and it does, and I've talked about it a lot, it's one of my favorite monster sets in the game, I'm not getting as much out of it on this setup as I do on others. And Sea Serpent is going to give me way more uptime on very good damage that I feel comfortable taking off one of my favorite sets ever, which is Balorg. And so we will talk about Sea Serpent and what it gives, but I chose the Sea Serpent route, and I chose Ethereal Ascension over Armor Master for the reasons mentioned before. And so that's why we're doing that. And then we're left with other things. I've talked about this in previous videos. Don't sleep on the arena weapons, okay? The arena weapons aren't all bad. Vadishran 2H is one of those weapons that isn't all bad. If you compare the stats at full stats of a perfected Vadishran 2H versus a mythic like Markin or Death Dealer's Feet, they're very, very comparable. This has 300 weapon damage at full stacks, it has 900 stamina, and it gives me a proc anywhere from 7 to 9k depending on what set I'm running on the back bar. I think it's about 7k if I'm running Rallying Cry, it's about 9k if I'm running Clever Alchemist. And so it's not a ton of damage, it's 2 to 4k typically when I'm proccing it, but it works so well with a Nightblade combo. You do the heavy attack, in-cap, spec bow. It procs every time on that heavy attack. You guarantee the snare, the stun with in-cap if they're not blocking. And it's just a lot of burst that helps you finish off opponents. And so if you compare this, you know, this is the equivalent of roughly like 370 weapon damage plus a proc. Well, you compare it to like Markin that has 200 weapon damage and 2k resistances. It's very similar in strength. And we don't have to run Markin because Markin's just an okay mythic. We're now running a great mythic, but we have room on our front bar, and this offsets some of the loss of Balorg because we have a proc and we get 300 weapon damage. Now, on to the fun stuff. Sea Serpent. Sea Serpent's a new mythic. I've talked about this a lot. I think Sea Serpent is going to be one of the best mythics this patch from 1vx. I do think Oaken Soul is extremely powerful. I do think Oaken Soul is the most powerful mythic in the game right now. I am still experimenting with Oaken Soul on a lot of specific builds, and there's nothing wrong. Like enjoy Oaken Soul while you can. If it weren't for Oaken Soul, this would be the best mythic, in my opinion. It allows you to utilize both bars, like all that utility you guys want. You still get a good amount of damage, not nearly as much as Oaken Soul, but yeah, this is good. It's a good mythic. It's way better than Markin and Death Dealer, in my opinion. And I've talked about this, and now I'm going to go into the math for you guys that want to hear it. So let's read it. While at full health, you gain 40% damage reduction. So when you're riding from keep to keep, the first attack that hits you is a 40% mitigation. Really nice for gankers in a high ganking meta. So it's not a ton, it's only the first attack, but it's not nothing, right? So those heavy attack builds that are hitting for 30 to 40k, you're mitigating 40% of their damage on that attack. You will be able to survive some of those attacks when you're running Sea Serpent and Ethereal and Rallying Cry with stage 3. Not all of them, because that shit hits super hard, but way more than most. And so Sea Serpent's really nice for that reason. But here's what trips people up. When you take damage at full health, you get Serpent's Rebuke, which snares you by 40%. At the cost of being snared by 40%, you gain Major Berserk and Major Courage, increasing your damage done by 10% and weapon and spell damage by 430. This is Olorime, Backbar like Olorime, Major Courage. This is the 5-piece for Olorime. And it's also like a 5-piece Essence Thief. The 5th piece for Essence Thief, the 10%. Major Berserk and Major Courage in one set at the cost of a 40% snare. You can offset this snare really easily. So I'm running 3 Swift. And so if I had all gold jewelry, this would be 21% speed. 21% speed right here. I'm also in 5 medium. 5 medium is 10% speed. So that's 31%. I'm also running celerity, which is another 10%. So when I get snared, when I take damage, when I'm in this build, I go from really nice speed, as you guys can see, to just normal Nightblade speed without Swift. So I get the proc, and I still have normal speed. And so when you look at it, I don't have problems. And obviously wolves also snare. And so that's one of the problems we're dealing with here. See, look, I got the snare. Let's attack something else that doesn't snare me like a wolf does. I'm trying to show you how I can move, and then I hit something that just snares the shit out of me. So that doesn't make any sense. But let's get attacked by the crab. But yeah, if you look at this, I still have movement speed. I still have solid movement speed with Sea Serpent up. It's not great, but it's normal. This is the normal speed that you have if you ran 5 heavy or whatever. And so unless you're running a speed build, unless you want to be a super fast, speedy guy, which I know that's the meta on PCNA, literally on all classes, this is a fantastic mythic because you can offset it. Now, how do you offset it? Well, if you look at Infused is roughly 260 to 270 base weapon damage, right? Sea Serpent, so if you go from 3 Infused to 3 Swift, you lose 300 weapon damage. So in order to try and offset this, you lose 300 weapon damage to get the speed back to normal. Well, Major Courage is 430. So you get roughly 100 base weapon and spell damage with this mythic, and 10% Major Berserk. You get Major Berserk and 100 weapon damage. Personally, for me, that is much stronger than Death Dealers. 10% is a metric fuck ton. It's already half of the damage. 100-ish weapon damage is half of that of Markin already. And then you get 10% more on top of that. It gives you so much damage. And so it allows us to run Ethereal Ascension. I still have a 13.5k tooltip surprise attack with this setup because Sea Serpent is modifying my damage so much. And so it's really nice for that reason. So when I'm at full health, if somebody tries to gank me, I have 40% mitigation. When it does proc, I have the strong, like one of the strongest damage dealing mythics in the game. Oaken Soul is the strongest. This is the second strongest in my opinion. It's just the second strongest mythic right now that allows you to run both bars. And so, and when you're solo, you're going to be dealing with a lot of gankers. Like the 40% isn't nothing. And so we can offset the snare issue with this specific setup. And we can also have the damage, like have more damage running this than like Markin or Death Dealers. And so I was comparing this to like a full glass cannon build from last patch. And the damage is very similar, but we get so much mitigation. Sea Serpent has just upped the overall power of classes this patch. It just is. Sea Serpent and Oaken Soul are just so extremely powerful that it's just changed how builds function. This setup hits as hard as like a glass cannon build last patch. Like that's how hard this current setup hits. But because we're in a new patch with a lot of gankers, we're able to stack mitigation and still hit hard with this setup. And so that's why we're running what we're running. We're stacking lots of different forms of mitigation. We also have minor resolve because we're running this. We have the ability to dodge and get out of fights. And on top of that, there's another thing that Sea Serpent does that you don't really realize until you're running it. But let's say, you know, I'm fighting a bunch of people and they're attacking me and they're getting my health bar low, and I'm trying to stay in here and fight, and I'm doing my dodge roll thing and I'm moving around and I'm trying to find stuff, and I can't get my health bar up, right? Like the 10 seconds goes away and I can't get my health bar up. Well, now if I can't get my health bar up, I have super speed to where I can just get away from people and I can just get out of a fight until I get the distance to where I can heal and get my self top back off. Once I'm topped back off and I get attacked again, then Sea Serpent will proc. So this mythic is kind of a, like if you're really trying to build back into the stacks, like if you still want some movement speed, it allows you to have speed and damage when you're like speed when you need to kite while also having damage. So it's a very cool stat dense setup in that way that I didn't really know until I was trying it. Now, you don't have to be a speedy boy. I'm just showing that it does have that aspect to this specific setup. So we can dodge a lot. We're fast when our health bar can't get topped off because we have 10 people crit rushing us and jumping on our back with snipes and everything. We can be very speedy, and then once we can line a sight, once we can reset the fight, get everything topped off, the next time we get hit, we go back to normal speed, but we have 10% more damage and 100 weapon damage, and it really modifies and makes our damage really nice. And so it is a very, very good mythic, and if you're not going to do an Oaken Soul 1-bar build, in my opinion, outside of just fast build, you should be running Sea Serpent's Coil. So that's just my opinion. I think it's, like I said, I think it's the best or the second best mythic in the game right now. And yeah, you should get it. So Backbar setups, you could run Griffin. I did run Griffin for a little bit, and it is fun because you get the minor expedition. So if you do want a little bit more speed, you get major expedition or minor force and minor expedition with this setup, and you can backbar it. So this is nice. It doesn't buff your healing. It doesn't give you mitigation. That's why I kind of like Rallying Cry a little bit more. But I would personally go between Rallying Cry or Clever Alchemist. I like the raw healing power of Clever Alchemist and the extra damage. Haven't ran it this patch. Like I said, I don't have transmutes to transmute my jewelry, but I will be trying that in the future. And if I do choose that, I will make an update to the video. But you guys should just know that those two, in my opinion, are the best. Alch or Rallying Cry for this specific setup. So, yeah. That is the gear layout. Hopefully I explained everything. Serpent Mundus, Stage 3 Vampire. I am an Imperial. Every race works. You can literally make every race in the game work. You just make some adjustments to your enchants. There's no difference between being like a Dark Elf and running a reduced cost enchant and being an Imperial and running 3 weapon damage. Like there's not much of a difference. Be any race you want. If you want to be a Khajiit and you want to have the extra crit modifiers, you can do that. Like that'd be fine. Wood Elf would be fine. Like all these setups would be very good. Now, dive into the gear. Executioner, or execute, obviously. Camel Hunter, I did try ambush. I still don't like it. You could slap 10 different buffs on that skill. I still don't like the skill. It's just very clunky. It's just not very good. This gives us major savagery and prophecy, and it also gives us minor berserk. So when we're flanking somebody, we get more modifier damage with that. Plus, because it's a fighter skilled skill, it increases our weapon damage on this bar, giving us even more damage. It's a nice skill to have in your bar. I still think it's better than ambush. If you don't agree, then switch it. It's okay. It's okay. We can all agree to disagree. We all play different. Obviously, like yeah, I'm running Rally on the front bar. I have Relentless Focus on the front bar, Surprise Attack on the front bar, and in cap. But yeah, you can adjust. You can adjust your different ultimates if you want. You can run Dawnbreaker here. You can run Soul Tether. You can run whatever you want. Surprise Attack, obviously. Guys, this damage doesn't look super great, and I understand that, but it's not buffed. And so we're not getting our Rallying Cry, and we don't have our Vatashran. We don't have our Vatashran proc, but this jumps up to a 13,000, like 200 or 300 surprise attack with Rallying Cry up. We actually have a good amount of damage with everything fully stacked in PvP and all that. Obviously, I can't buff Rallying Cry outside of PvP, but yes. The damage does go up. You saw I had over 10k. With Rallying Cry, that's 300 weapon damage. With Vatashran, that's another 300 weapon damage. We get up to over 13k. You can feel free to look at this on the editor if you want to compare things to your own specific setups, but our damage is very good. Backbar. I am running Temporal Guard. You could run Bow Ult. You could run either form of Bow Ult. To be honest, you're fast, so you can move around Toxic Barrage if you so choose. Up to you, but I still like the Temporal Guard. We got Resolving Vigor on the back bar. This is a flex spot. You can run Siphoning, or you can run like Reaper's Mark or the Revealing Mark. This gives us Major Breach. Obviously, Major Berserk doesn't matter, but this is all about the heal, and this is about the Breach. So Major Berserk is redundant. I know you can run the other one if you want to, but this is a fat heal, guys. 20k tooltip heal when you kill the person with this. It allows you to be a little bit more bulky. But we get a lot of pen, which is also another form of damage, like I talked to you guys about in my other video. If you're running a pen skill like this that gives you so much, and you're running a resistance, like there's not much difference between running full damage sets and defensive skills and a defensive set and an offensive skill. It's whichever you pick and choose. So this is a very powerful skill for a lot of different reasons. You can fit it on your bar. If you don't like it, put siphoning here. You can put shadow image on. You can go back and forth. Shadowy disguise, I think it's the best for this type of setup. You get your crit damage, guaranteed crit from stealth. Very, very bursty this patch. Allows you to get in and out of fights really quickly. Very, very nice. I am running leeching strikes here. I've been bouncing back and forth with Reaper's Mark, leeching strikes, or shade and leeching. Not sure which one I like. I think this is one of the few types of builds you can actually take shade off. Shade has felt really clunky for me for the last few patches. Haven't really enjoyed it like I used to. It just doesn't feel very good to use. Oftentimes it feels like clunky and I overcast it. I end up casting it down and then I go back to it and I have to cast it again and I'm just wasting so much magicka using it. And then I don't have magicka for cloak or anything else. And then I'm just upset because the skill just doesn't work like it used to. But I'm so fast, guys. Like I have 3 swift with celerity, with medium. This is one of the few builds where I really think you can get away with no shade. But that's up to you. If you want to run shade, I'm not saying shade's bad. It's one of the best skills in the game when it works. It's just sometimes it's frustrating and I just take it off. Mirage, go back and forth between Mirage and Shuffle. Shuffle's great. Mirage gives you 3k resistances, major evasion as well, and it lasts longer. Like this gives you more for longer. And so it's nice to have a buff that just lasts for 26 seconds and it's just there. So it's a little bit less buff intensive than Shuffle. I found this patch there's not as many people running skills like Bombard. DKs aren't running Talons because they're all in Oaken Soul builds. And so you're not really getting snared as much as you used to be. And you're so fast that you just get the distance anyway. So the minute somebody tries to snare you, you dodge roll and you maybe sprint just a little bit to get a little bit more distance. And then you stop sprinting and you're fine. And you've got the distance you've got away from the snares. You're good to go. Then you can cloak and you can get right back into there and really like utilize speed with high damage. And so that's what I've kind of found with the setup. Obviously, like I said, shade definitely works, obviously. But yeah, bounce around. You pick what you want. I'm not going to argue semantics over what skills people want to run. If you want to run something, you run it. It's free country. It's a free game. It's a sandbox game. You run whatever you want, damn it. Duelist rebuff reduces damage taken by single target attacks by 3% per stage. I know this got nerfed. Gankers just hit really hard, man. So I'm just going to take what I can get. I'll take the single target mitigation. And then I have deadly aim, which will be 50 here. For whatever reason, I've gained CP, and so I got to add it. Master at Arms also. So direct damage and single target damage. And then my other CP I have stacked into critical resist. Like I said, a lot of crit damage this patch with Oaken Soul. In my opinion, Resilience is one of the best CP passives to run right now. You really can't get enough crit mitigation at the moment, in my opinion. So, yeah, this is the one I'll fight you on, okay? We can argue about a bunch of different things. In my opinion, in this patch, this is the best thing. Like this should definitely be on your bar. You can debate the 6%, you can debate the healing, whatever. I think this should be on your bar. It just gives so much. That's just my opinion. Over here in the red tree, we got points in a hasty or sprint. We have points in a celerity down there. We got the normal stuff there. We got survival instincts. Got my 50 points into tenacity here. And then we have fortified, a little bit more armor. And then we have our magic and stamina recovery right here. You can run whatever you want over here. I just think survival instincts and like slippery would, like these two are very, very nice. I would consider taking this one out and putting slippery in. I think that would actually be a little bit better use of your resources. But yeah, you can bounce back and forth with whatever you want there. I do think the celerity for the speed is nice. If you're running Griffin, you can take the speed off. If you don't need to be at normal speed, you can take it off. You can put on other things. Over here, I don't have a ton. I've got Gifted Rider. I don't have a ton of CP on PCNA, guys, so I don't, yeah. It's a green tree. You can figure it out. I got liquid efficiency and I got that. That's all I got over there. But yeah, that's the CP layout. That's the character. Those are the skills. That's everything. Like I said, this is going to be a longer video. It's going to be more in depth. Hopefully this is going to help you guys. This patch is probably one of the tougher ones to 1vx on. I'm just going to be frank with you guys. It's not an easy patch to 1vx. There's a lot of damage out there. There's a lot of free damage. It's really going to be tough. It's going to be frustrating. Even if you run this build, you will run through some frustrations because there's, like I said, there's a lot of damage. I think this is the best that I've found so far, and I've done a lot of research comparing different sets and everything. A lot of damage still. Like I said, we have a 13k tooltip surprise attack, plus with major fracture, plus with minor fracture. Like, we have a lot of penetration. I'll show you here. So I showed you the defensive stuff on the back bar. If we buff up on the front bar, keep in mind we're missing out on 600 weapon damage with the Vatishran 2H and the Asylum, and the 350 weapon damage on the enchant on our back bar. We're missing out a lot of weapon damage there. But we see we have 7k pen, and then we get 3k with minor fracture, so that gives us 10k, and then we get another 5k with our mark. And so we have 15k pen with this setup. We have a 13k tooltip surprise attack with major berserk. We're stacking modifiers offensively and defensively on this setup. We're fast, we're tanky, we can avoid damage, we can mitigate damage, like all sorts of different things we can do that people would throw at us in the game. This works out very well for a traditional bow and 2H setup, which is nice. I will go into a hybrid. I will try to, do the resto dual wield thing, because I do think that's one of the better setups to run right now. But I've been playing Nightblade for years, and bow 2H is what I'm comfortable with, and I wanted to make bow and 2H work. This is the best I could come up with, guys. So so far, I do think this works out very well. You guys should definitely try some things and see what you like for yourself. As far as front bar, back bar options, if you do want some mitigation, you want to run front bar, back bar, monster set with a mythic, you can do like a back bar armor master. You run shuffle, and then you can run armor master back bar. It's not going to be as much resistances. You're going to have to cast shuffle every 10 seconds so that you have the resistance uptime. It's a very good, it's a solid back bar set. And then you can run a front bar set like Order's Wrath, maybe Titanborn if they ever fix it. Lots of good options on the front bar. Obviously, Calurians is the best. Calurians would be the best front bar set. But I've ran Calurians so often in the past, I just don't like it. Guys, I just don't like the set. It is best in slot. I'm not running the best in slot offensive set for a Nightblade. So I don't care to run it, but you can make it work. Like, you can obviously fit Calurians on your bar. So yeah, those are alternatives for you guys. If you guys have any questions or comments, please provide in the section below. Hopefully I have enough of an explanation for everything. But yeah, that is it. We will have gameplay in the future. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a nice day.